Hello, my name is Amelia Reed, and I never imagined the sharpest betrayal of my life would come from my own sister. I had faced ambushes in the desert with less fear than what I felt when I watched my own sister handle my medicine that evening. Surrounded by laughter on a glittering cruise ship, I was treated like the unstable one until a quiet waitress slipped me a folded napkin with a warning that changed everything. In that moment, I realized family can wound deeper than any enemy, and my silence would have to become my greatest weapon. The kitchen glowed warmly, but my skin prickled as if I were back on patrol. Sophia moved across the counter with the certainty of a nurse sorting pills into my organizer. Too neat, too deliberate, with a smile stretched wider than comfort. I remembered my instructor's warning: evidence outlasts lies. The words pressed in my throat as I studied her hands. "Long day?" she asked without looking up. A knock broke the moment. Mrs. Keller, our neighbor, stepped in with oranges. "Amelia, you're looking well," she began. Sophia cut smoothly. "She forgets sometimes, but we manage." The smile that followed was pity, not respect. I swallowed the burn of being dismissed in my own kitchen. Silence was armor, I reminded myself. But the pill tray caught my eye. One capsule looked wrong, off color, a different shape. While Sophia turned, I brushed the counter, palming it into my pocket. Upstairs, I sealed it in a plastic bag, noting time and date as if filing evidence. The next day, at the pharmacy under buzzing lights, I slid the bag across the counter. The pharmacist shrugged. Generic swap colors. Perfectly normal. He didn't meet my eyes. His dismissal left me adrift, doubting myself until Sophia's syrupy voice replayed in memory. She wanted me uncertain. Evening brought Daniel. He placed his jacket carefully, polite but watchful. His eyes scanned me the way officers once scanned suspects. Sophia leaned in the doorway, sweetly adding, "Amelia gets confused lately, don't you?" Daniel frowned, then asked where I kept important papers. I answered sharp correct. His silence afterward was louder than words. The doubt she planted had taken root. Something hardened in me. If they meant to erase me, I would leave a record too precise to be questioned. Every pill, every note, every hour documented. Paper would defend me. Later in bed, I reached for calm. The house hummed with cicadas outside, but a voice carried through the vent. Sophia's low, urgent. Only fragments, but enough to freeze me. Soon enough, she won't be able to argue anymore. The air felt thick as I lay still, staring at the ceiling. Training had taught me how to measure silence, how to wait without moving. But this was different. My own blood whispering against me. I could almost see her smile in the dark, rehearsing my downfall. I gripped the notebook on my nightstand, picturing the first line: November 10th, 2023, my sister touched the pills. I would not let memory alone defend me. Paper, time-stamped and undeniable, would be my shield. They dressed the cruise as a celebration. For me, it was the perfect cage to stage my downfall. Miami slid into dusk behind us, chandeliers waking along the decks. Champagne hissed, violins stitched the air, and Sophia tucked her arm in mine, like affection were habit, not costume. At the elevator, she leaned toward a couple and breathed. "My sister gets lost sometimes, but we try to keep it lighthearted." Their smiles softened into pity. The word sister pinned me to the board. In our cabin, the pill bag in my drawer felt like a blade hidden in a boot. Reassurance, not comfort. Evidence would outlast lies. I repeated it like a cadence. Daniel moved through the evening with courtly manners and an auditor's gaze. At dinner, he tested me as if casual. The month of my mother's death. May. The day. 14th. My doctor. Dr. Shaw. The mortgage servicer. I answered steady, but doubt does not leave when it is fed. It only rearranges its furniture. Sophia slid bread onto my plate and praised my progress loud enough for the neighboring table. They told her how kind she was. Kindness weaponized as a soft noose. I asked to speak with her alone. On the promenade, the wind peeled hair from our faces, and I said, Stop telling people I'm slipping. She tilted her head saintly. Daniel stepped between us. Please, he said, not a scene. My temper flashed. She smiled like a cat who had watched a bird strike glass. I walked the length of deck 7 until anger cooled into a plan. Rounding a corner, I stopped at our names. Sophia's voice low, Daniel's tight. I stayed in shadow and listened. Paper rustled. Guardianship is humane, she said. It protects her from herself. A beat. Are we sure, he asked? She lowered her voice, careless with triumph. Once the papers are signed, the house is mine. The words struck metal in me. I lifted my phone and caught fragments hallway, echo breath, the cadence of certainty. I moved on when a family pushed past. At the bar, I ordered a ginger ale I didn't want and watched the room in the mirror. The bartender's name tag read, Maria. Her hands were precise. She aligned my coaster to the seam in the wood. She studied my face a heartbeat too long, then looked away. No questions. But the look said I see it. Sophia collected sympathies like seashells. Daniel followed rope burn in his eyes. The trio in the atrium lacquered the evening in sweetness. Gossip did the rest. I heard my reflection in strangers' phrases. She repeats herself. She seems tired and let them pass like weather. Silence had saved men beside me. It would save the record now. Back in the hallway, I replayed the night as if mapping a patrol time from dining room to promenade distance to the bend, where the vent hum deepened the angle where a camera might catch a hand over a glass. Not paranoia. Preparation. I bought a pocket notebook and logged every datum. When fear learns a route, it stops running. Morning rehearsed glamour presses steaming rental tuxes, bright counters humming. In a boutique window, a sequined gown threw sparks. Sophia admired it with Daniel at her shoulder and catching my eye in the glass smiled. Just make sure she doesn't embarrass us in front of everyone, she said to the display. He said nothing. On the sun deck I wrote names. Times distances. The pattern of how she sowed doubt and harvested pity. A waitress crossed the pool area carrying a tray through a tangle of bodies with impossible calm. Maria again. Her glance met mine, bright and sober, and slid away. The message was simple. Someone else on this ship noticed the current. In combat, I had learned to read danger in the twitch of an eye. That night, the warning came on a folded napkin. The gala room glittered hard enough to hurt. Light broke into coins. The quartet stitched brightness over murmurs and smiles felt rehearsed. As we entered, whispers skimmed the tablecloths. She looks distracted. Is she okay? Sophia sighed for them, then steered me to a table dressed like a verdict. Daniel's hand hovered at my chair, cordial, calculating. Tomorrow, everything ends, she had told the night. The sentence pressed along my spine. We sat beneath a chandelier like a witness. Place cards neat. Wine breathing. Daniel raised his glass, kind voice, measuring eyes. A toast to family. To steady waters. Sophia added, practicing safety in public. I lifted mine. To truth. It weighed more than crystal. A seam of quiet opened as the quartet turned pages. In that hush, Sophia's hand slid across my place, setting too casual to be innocent. A small vial. A pinch. A petal of powder sinking into red. The wine darkened by a whisper. She set the stem before me with a smile shaped like concern. The seam closed. Laughter resumed. The ship pretended to be only joy. Maria arrived as if summoned by a thought. Tray-balanced eyes alert, her smile the professional kind that never touches worry. She placed a leather dessert list near my right hand. Inside the napkin, ink hurried and slanted. I saw your sister slip something into your drink. No name. Training flattened my face. Breath on a count of 4. The paper's lightness grew heavy. Drink before it warms, Sophia urged. I angled my glass, paused to thank a passing couple for nothing, and in that polite misdirection traded stems, mine for hers, hers for mine. No flourish, no gasp. Maria's shoulder dipped once in acknowledgement, then she vanished back into the music's edge. Daniel lifted his glass relief, easing him. Crystal chimed. I raised water and let silence drape my shoulders. Performance worked while poison waited. Sophia glowed, rearranging cutlery, measuring me through shine. The room hummed, carrying her narrative like a tune half remembered. The napkin warmed in my palm like a fuse. Time changed shape. First a blink too long, then a swallow that wandered. She touched her temple, 2 fingers, a smile that didn't land. Warm in here to nobody. Daniel's smile thinned. She reached for what she believed was my glass and drank deeper, as if proof could quiet doubt. The music brightened. Her consonants didn't. Words loosened, slid. She praised the chandelier for its rain, its diamonds. A ripple of tittering rose and died. She stood too quickly, snagged the cloth. The glass skidded, leapt, shattered. Red spread across marble. The music cut. Heads turned as if pulled by wire. I did not move. She had chosen a stage. I let the stage hold her. The napkin rested under my fingers like a passport. Maria hovered 2 steps behind, already steady. I'm fine. Sophia tried, syllables tangled. She giggled at an invisible joke and reached for my shoulder, missing by an inch. Concern hovered. A woman called for water. A man raised a hand. The trio let their phrase fall open like a question. Daniel's chair scraped the floor. Calculation crossed his face. Confusion, denial, then panic that the night was no longer his to narrate. Sophia swayed, sequins flashing like failing beacons. Do you see the diamonds dancing? She asked. The light eyes dilated. She tried to find her seat and found only air. The crowd opened without deciding to. A server reached. Maria was already there, steady hands, no judgment. The ocean keeps secrets, she told the chandelier, and the line fell apart in her mouth. My hand didn't tremble. I folded the napkin once. Evidence will outlast lies, the old voice said, anchoring me. The carpet drank the wine. People stared. She looked at me like a horizon might steady her. She smiled, forgot why. Frowned, forgot again. Daniel half rose, sat rose, searching for a script that had dissolved. Bows hovered. Conversation unraveled. The chandeliers watched indifferent. I knew how to watch without rescuing. Her knees softened. A tray rattled. The room held its breath. Past the cluster of guests, a radio clicked, security summoned. Maria's gaze touched mine for a heartbeat. Not triumph. Confirmation. Daniel seizes her arm, whispering frantically. Sophia, what did you do? While Maria signals the security officer. Cameras do not bend for pity. They capture what hands would deny. That night, the truth was projected in cold, unblinking light. We were led into the security control room, screens flickering with feeds from every hallway and deck. Jonathan Price, the head of security, moved with the patience of someone who had seen too many lies fall apart under cameras. Maria stood near me, tray set aside, her chin lifted just enough to show resolve. Sophia kept her smile intact, but her fingers drummed against her armrest, and Daniel walked in behind her, silent, as if the air itself might accuse him. Jonathan dimmed the lights and pressed a button. The footage rolled back to the gala. There I was, seated beneath chandeliers, lifting my glass. Then Sophia, her hand darting casual to anyone not trained to see, dropping the white dust into my drink. A collective gasp from the staff around us filled the room. Daniel leaned forward, his knuckles whitening, while Sophia hissed, "That could be anything. Shadow's a trick." Maria's voice cut through the hum. I was there. I saw the powder leave her hand. I slipped the note to Amelia. It's in your evidence bag now. She sounded less like a waitress and more like a sworn witness. Jonathan nodded and logged it, voice even, chain of custody intact. We moved next into Sophia's cabin. The warmth of her perfume could not disguise the cold precision of the search. Jonathan's officers pulled open drawers and found what I had known would be there, the vile, identical pills with swapped labels and papers half filled, granting Sophia guardianship over me. A tablet blinked awake to reveal staged videos of me looking disoriented, cut and spliced with care, meant to deceive a court. Daniel stared longest at one affidavit, his own signature below a paragraph claiming I was unfit. She told me it was just precaution, he whispered. His voice cracked into silence. The weight of betrayal settled on him too late but undeniably. Sophia lunged for the tablet, shrieking that it wasn't fair, that she deserved her share. The words rattled off her teeth like coins spilling loose. Her mask finally split. She had everything, I only wanted my share. The cabin seemed smaller with her scream. The illusion of the devoted sister burned away. Jonathan sealed each piece into evidence bags, scrawling signatures, logging times. He looked at us with no sympathy, only the calm of procedure. The last bag clicked shut like a cell door. When we dock in Miami, Jonathan said evenly, this case goes directly to the Coast Guard and Miami-Dade police. They thought my silence proved weakness. That day, silence became my verdict and theirs. When the ship docked in Miami, the humid air carried the sharp scent of fuel and salt. Police waited at the pier, their presence unmistakable, a wall of authority in dark uniforms. Sophia stumbled down the gangway in handcuffs, mascara streaked across her face. She twisted, shouting my name, voice cracked with fury. Amelia, tell them this is wrong. Tell them I was only protecting you. I stood at the edge of the pier, hands folded behind my back, the sun catching my medals pinned discreetly inside my jacket. I said nothing. The chain of custody, the bagged vial, Maria's napkin, the silent footage, all of it spoke louder than I ever could. Weeks later, in the fluorescent chill of a Miami-Dade courtroom, the case unfolded like a slow, deliberate dissection. The prosecutor's voice was steady. Each charge, a blade laid bare: attempted poisoning, attempted elder exploitation, conspiracy to commit fraud. Sophia, once perfectly composed, now clutched at her lawyer's sleeve, eyes darting like a cornered animal. Not guilty, she declared, her tone brittle. But the evidence piled around her, the toxicology report confirming the powder as a drug designed to mimic dementia. The pill bottles labeled falsely, the guardianship papers inked in her script. Daniel's affidavit signed under her manipulation. Maria testified first, her voice firm, recalling the hurried napkin, the powder dissolving in the glass. Jonathan Price followed, presenting the CCTV with the unblinking neutrality of procedure. The footage flickered across the courtroom screen, Sophia's hand quick, practiced damning. Murmurs rippled through the gallery, the sound of illusions shattering. Daniel sat rigid until the prosecutor called his name. On the stand, his shoulders sagged beneath the weight of his own complicity. I let myself believe a lie, he whispered, the microphone catching the break in his voice. He stared across the room, not at Sophia, but at me. I let you down, Amelia. I signed papers I never should have signed. His admission hung heavy in the room, the final nail in a coffin Sophia had built for herself. By February, the sentencing drew a packed gallery. I sat in the second row, spine straight, palms folded. Sophia stood before the judge, her last mask crumbling. The judge's words were precise, each syllable a gavel blow. You abused trust. You plotted to erase your sister's autonomy for personal gain. The court sentences you to 25 years in state prison. Sophia screamed then, denial tearing from her throat, insisting she was owed something, that I had stolen her life. But her words fell into silence. The chains at her wrists rattled as officers pulled her back, the sound sharper than any verdict. I did not rise. I did not speak. Silence, once used to paint me as fragile, now crowned me with resolve. Outside, reporters pressed forward, microphones flashing like bayonets. Ms. Reed, do you have a statement? What do you feel about your sister's sentence? I looked past them to the courthouse steps where sunlight pooled like an open road. The evidence spoke, I said simply, and walked on. Weeks later, I stood in the Veterans Hall, a place where banners hung faded but proud, where stories of sacrifice lived in every quiet nod. Faces turned toward me, men and women who knew what betrayal felt like, who knew the cost of silence. I told my story not with bitterness, but with warning. Guardianship, fraud, family betrayal. It could happen to anyone. The pill bag, the napkin, the footage had saved me, but vigilance could save others sooner. I ended with the only words I needed, the truth distilled to its core. They thought silence erased me, but silence can carry truth farther than any scream. I stood through storms I never expected, from the battlefield to my own family table, and I survived because I chose patience, proof, and silence when others tried to twist my voice. Now I ask you, stand with me. Share your thoughts below. Tell me what you would have done in my place. Would you have spoken or let the evidence speak? Your comments remind me and remind others that no one faces betrayal alone. Support isn't measured in medals or verdicts. It lives in solidarity. Lend me your voice so my silence carries even further.